Probably the one which is the most obvious is Toreando type footwork drills, where I have to go from a situation where I'm relatively square to my opponent to one where I step and step my feet to the side so that I misalign myself relative to my opponent. I have an angle on my opponent and I can start passing. So if I start off square with the camera, we get a step and then I change my orientation from facing this way here and turning my body 90 degrees so that my legs are now lined up with my opponent and we're in a position to push his legs out and away from us. So the motion is a small side step and then a back step. We come back square, small side step, back step, square, side step, back step. We want to create a situation where I create an initial angle on my training partner and then I come out to an angle out to the side. I come back in front of my training partner, a small side step, and then a back step that puts me in a position out here at an angle ready to begin passing. So there's that first movement, just out to the side, and then a turn to an angle. I don't want my opponent hooking into this leg. That's going to create all kinds of problems. So the idea is I won't give him a leg to hook into. Once we get a hold of our training partner here, I just take my leg back and away, and we're in a good position to pass. And either side, we find ourselves out to an angle now. So that's the first form of footwork. Second form of footwork is a cross step, where I take a side step and a step around my opponent's legs. Side step, crescent step. Side step and crescent step. Side step and crescent step. Demonstrate it first on a seated opponent. From a seated situation, I side step and then I crescent step around behind my opponent. Also going to do a defensive belt posture. So we post, side step, crescent step up to the hip line. Side step, crescent step, shoulder step. Side step, crescent step, shoulder step. On a supine opponent, similar things. From here, side step, crescent step, shoulder step. When this is combined with hand work, you'll see that it's pretty easy for us under these circumstances to get into good position on our opponent. First and most important is that of stance and motion. From a situation where we're standing in front of an opponent, we're going to play between square stances, which are predominantly defensive in nature. Okay, and staggered stances, which are predominantly offensive in nature and allow us to go into a lunge position, which will enable us to attack an opponent and shoot by takedown. When we're mostly interested in defense, we're interested in getting our legs back and away from our opponent. Typically, square stances tend to work very, very well. But when it's time to actually engage in offense, typically we'll have a leg forward and ready to work. Most of the time, when we go to reach an opponent, we'll reach with the rear hand. That's not always true, but a lot of the time it is. The idea is if I start reaching too much with the lead hand, I leave my leg, the one that's closest to my opponent, quite vulnerable to being shot. So what we want is a hand, defensive hand, in front of the leg that forms a barrier between my leg and my opponent. That leaves us a rear hand to reach with and pull, push, tie up wrist. Once we make contact with the rear hand, then we can safely bring the lead hand up. Okay? As we do this, we have to move in short, choppy steps around the mat. I don't want to stand up too tall. It's very easy enough for my opponent to get on my legs. But on the other hand, jiu-jitsu matches are longer than wrestling matches. So it's not realistic to expect us to be bent over all the way as we would in a short wrestling match for a 10 or 20 minute jiu-jitsu match. Rather, we tend to work more from a semi-crouch where our shoulder is over our lead knee, just like so. And as a result, it's a little more relaxed and easier to work with for long periods of time. If, however, I see my opponent is in a radically lower stance than myself, I may well be tempted to bring my head down to match his head level, unless, of course, I'm trying to bait him into an attack on my legs to go into guillotines or what have you. But basically, our measure is what is the height of our training partner's head. And if it's low, we'll go lower. If it's higher, we'll go a little higher. And then from here, we work short, choppy steps, switching stances, etc., around the mat, and working between square stance and coming back into a staggered stance, working like so, reaching mostly with the rear hand, like so, keeping a defensive knee and elbow together, so it's going to be hard for our opponent to shoot at. Associated with the standing position is that of sprawling. An opponent gets to tries to shoot out on our legs. Our goal is to get our legs to move down and away from our opponent. He's looking to bring the legs in and up. We're looking to get our legs down and away. The way this is often taught is in terms of a radical throwing of the hips and legs back to the mat. Often that's a form of overreaction, which can leave you in a very extended, vulnerable position to a second or another form of offense from your opponent where he fakes and takes advantage of your overextended position where he snaps you down to the floor, etc., etc. As a general rule, what we're looking to do with our first element of defense is get our knees to the mat. And then based upon what we see, then from there we decide going into a full sprawl or what have you. So let's have a look at the idea of a down block. In a situation where we work from front of an opponent and I have my defensive hand elbow and knee close together. As I reach like so, my opponent is mostly going to be interested in shooting on the leg that's closest to him. From here, when I see my opponent go to work, we're going to focus on bringing our hand to the floor and the leg goes back. So I'm not sprawling. I just put a defensive hand in front of my opponent so the arm is there as a barrier and he goes onto my arm. Okay? So if I have my right leg forward, my right arm is my defense arm. It'll also be my offense arm too. We'll cover that another time. From here, as he goes into to shoot, my leg goes back and my hand goes down to the floor. I don't want him just getting into the leg. So defensive hand goes down, the body goes down with it, and the leg goes back, like so, giving him very little to work with. You now, if necessary, you could go into a sprawl from here, but if your opponent merely faked and didn't go in on the leg, you'd be in a good position just to resume working in a standing position. When we practice sprawling, we just practice mostly going down to a knee. So there's a level change. When I see him coming in, we practice just coming down to our knees like so. If the guy gets in on the leg, that's when we'll begin that full sprawling action, shoelaces down to the mat, legs down and away. But when I just come down to a knee, if it all turns, my opponent's shot was a fake one, I'm still in a pretty good position to defend myself. Okay, I'm athletic here, I can get back up. Now, how we get back up is very important. The naive thing to do is just to put a leg up, and then you're very vulnerable to a second form of shot, okay? So the right thing to do most of the time here is to circle up. So we still have our defensive hands down on the floor, we put our legs up, and from here, with my legs back and away from my opponent, I start the action of circling back up to my feet. So I need to offer him a free shot, a free second shot at my leg. The first defensive movement is the most conservative, that's the down block, where my opponent shoots, or at least pretends to shoot, and from here, we just down block. He comes onto my defensive arm, just like so. Now, when we see a more serious shot at the legs, from here we just go down with our knees on the mat. We don't get overextended, okay? We're in a position now where we can recover by circling back up to our feet. So we go in, down block, sprawl, make a decision where we want to go. It's usually down and away with the legs. And if it turns out the shot wasn't a real one, then we circle back up to our feet. If we're here in the standing position and my opponent shoots out on my lead leg, well, I just bring the leg back and away. So I have a defensive hand, he goes to shoot, we just bring the leg back and away. He shoots, the leg goes back and away, now you're in a position to go back in on him. If my opponent goes in a more serious fashion on my legs, and from here, we just get the knees down like so. Arms in front, or tight waist in, just like so. When he goes in on the legs, we make a decision now about how serious the sprawl will be. If he's really trying to come in hard on the legs, we're looking at always just stuff, get our hands to his knee, and create situations where we get the legs down and away. Now, if I have an opponent in front of me, and I fake a shot, and my opponent goes down to his knees, like so. If he's naive and just puts his leg up, he gives me an opportunity now to hit the second shot that'll put him down. Okay, so we can't be naive in the way in which we come back up. If my opponent fakes a shot on me, and I come down like so, I don't just come up and give him a second shot. That's not the way to do things. Rather, we put the legs out and we circle back up to our feet. So we're in a good defensive stance, ready to engage once again. You're going to have to develop is that of carrying your opponent's body weight off a takedown. The most common reaction to any form of leg takedown is always going to be some kind of sprawling action, okay, where you're going to get stuck underneath your opponent's body weight. What we're looking to avoid is situations where we're in on a leg and we get extended with our head down to the mat. This is a position from which recovery is extremely difficult, and it's very likely our opponent will score on us either by taking our back or even going to submission holds. Okay, that's what we're actively trying to avoid. What we're trying to create are situations where you can successfully carry someone's weight even when they're sprawling on you and go through to finish your takedown successfully. That means, in general, a posture which our hips are forward, the body is relatively upright, and the head is upright. And from here, we can move and carry weight that's on top of us. So we practice the skills of starting on our knees, and from here, with an imaginary opponent in front of us, we practice the skill of going in on a leg and holding a posture which is relatively upright. This might be a double leg situation, like so, or it might be a single leg situation, like so. The main idea is that we're trying to avoid extension with head down. Rather, once we make contact with a given leg, we're always looking to keep our body relatively upright and in a position where we can bear weight as someone stands over us. Once I get in on a given leg, like so, when he goes to sprawl, in situations like this, I want to be able to keep my body relatively upright. I want to be able to switch across to the other side and get to situations where we can take people reliably down to the floor and work successfully. What we're looking to avoid is situations where his leg goes back and we get extended as the leg goes further and further back. down to the mat like so. It's almost inevitable now that the opponent will score on us. So we need situations where once we get in on a given leg from here, he goes to pull those legs back and work, we can get up to our feet from here and into beautiful working positions like so. So we're going to start this idea of getting in on a leg, body upright. He goes to sprawl, and you can carry your opponent's weight. You can step successfully across your opponent and make a switch to another form of takedown. Okay, if necessary, you can come up behind your opponent and work successfully from the mat. It's all about that good upright body posture, which we always practice in terms of head up, chest forward, working down on the mat, consciously avoiding situations where the head goes down and we get extended. We've gone over what I think are the most important general body movements associated with the sport, and we've demonstrated how they pertain to the realistic situation of a resisting opponent. So we've shown the move and then shown the application. Now I want to look at a special topic for solo training. That's the idea of training your spine. Always remember, of course, human beings are classified as vertebrates. Okay, the central feature of our body is that of a skull attached to a spine, and everything else is attached to that. Your training has to reflect that fundamental physiological fact about human beings. And the training of the spine is a very important part of your development in the sport. Understand that there are two major movements associated with your spine. These are rounding movements, where the spine rounds out, like so. I would say the majority of the sport of jiu-jitsu is spent in the rounded position. Okay, almost every form of guard position, almost every form of turtle position involves a rounded spine, like so. This stands in contrast with an arched spine. Okay, shoulders back, and a pronounced arch in the spine like so. And so the sport of jiu-jitsu asks us to go between rounded spine and arched spine. I think it's fair to say the majority of our time in jiu-jitsu is spent in rounded spine, but let's not underplay the value of an arched spine. Almost all of the major submission holds of the sport finish in an arched position, arm locks, etc. Understand that the two major bending points of the spine will always be the ends of the spine. These occur close to the neck and close to the lower back. So those are going to be the primary focus of your rounding and arching program. The drill which I want you to work with is a kind of a round the world drill, where we just go in circles with a rounded spine. We're going to start off in a seated position just like so, and cross our legs, and from here we're going to come up into an inverted position, just like so. Now from here, I'm going to separate my legs and turn around my body just like so. From here, we just learn to move in a comfortable circle. Here, I'm continuously going over my right shoulder, tracing out a circle along the mat. Notice that when we do this, it starts with a swishering of our legs onto one shoulder, across the scapula to the other shoulder. A slight split of the legs, and we trace out a circle on the mat. Once you've gone in one direction comfortably, then we practice the skill of going in the opposite direction. And the movement is always the same. As you gain in skill, I want you to start using your arms less and less. And what you're going to find is that some degree of neck strength is required to complete the drill. So when you first start off, you'll be using your hands on the mat to give you stability. But ultimately, I want you to work with no hands, so that you're forced to engage the neck muscles as well as the muscles of the lower back. In this way, you develop a certain degree of suppleness in the neck and the lower back, which is going to be extremely useful in the sport of jiu-jitsu. In the linear drill, we start like so. Instead of me tipping from one side to the other, we tip straight back, as though our spine were the shape of a banana or a rocking chair. We use our legs to carry our weight over our head. So my legs do this motion. As I round my spine more and more, my legs will carry me up and down, up and down. When you get comfortable, you can go from the circular drill to the linear drill. When you learn to round out your spine like this, much of the bottom position gain, which is based on the idea of inversion and elevation, becomes second nature to you. Now, with regards arching of the spine, a very important drill here is the side-to-side bridging drill. We're going to start off supine, just like so, and hit our bridges with repetition the same way we saw them earlier in this video. Everything starts with the eyes. We look overhead, we come up, and from here we walk and walk and walk until we come up to our knees. Then from here we come back down and we bridge up in the opposite direction. You'll notice that as we perform this drill, we turn 90 degrees. So if I start off facing the camera, like so, I'm going to finish perpendicular to my original angle, lined up with my shoulder line. So here we are. Don't stop until your two knees are on the floor. A common mistake is people just bridge like this. You're training yourself to stop when the movement hasn't yet been completed. Remember, the move isn't over until your chest down to the floor. Only then have you turned your opponent successfully over. So make sure you finish on your two knees. Don't finish on your stomach. Nobody's athletic in this position. You need to be able to come up and over. Notice that I have two legs. Initially, it's my right leg which is providing the drive. But then I have to transfer to my left leg. Then it's my left leg that provides the initial drive and passes to the right leg. And in this way, while holding the arch, we develop the arching potential of the human spine. It's the ability to push with your head, which becomes extremely useful in half guard passing, open guard passing, north-south pinning. The idea is we're going to put our forehead on the mat. Initially, just our hands and knees will be on the floor. And when you first start off, just practice circling your head side to side, forwards and backwards. You want to slowly increase the amount of weight that your neck bears. Now, you're going to have to go at your own pace because you could hurt your neck if you go too quickly. Then from here, when we feel confident, we can bring our knees up off the mat. And when we feel more confident, we can take our hands to our hamstring. And in this way, you develop good strength to push with your head into your opponent and use your head as part of your attacks, particularly when you're in top position. And this is the structure of elbow to knee. The more our elbows and knees are connected, the better we perform. This is true whether we're on our back or when we're in turtle position underneath, prone like so. Things go bad in jiu-jitsu when that elbow and knee connection is broken. The further my elbows and knees are apart, the less effective I am in this sport. But the moment we start bringing elbows and knees together, that's when we become effective jiu-jitsu players. Okay? So the onus is on us to develop the kind of body in which we can easily keep elbow and knee together for extended periods of time. Now, when it comes to prone positions, the exercise which I often advocate, which helps the development of the core strength required to make you successful at joining elbow and knee together, is crawling. Okay, crawling is a very simple exercise you can do anywhere, which tests your ability to keep elbow and knee together in a prone position. So we're just going to start in what looks like a loose kind of push-up position, and we're going to practice the skill of joining elbow and knee on one side. Then we walk and join elbow and knee on the other side. Elbow and knee join, and we walk like so. Then we reverse the direction. So we don't turn around and come back, we just reverse direction. Performing this for even relatively short periods of time will test your ability to keep elbow and knee together and provide an excellent beginner level workout for your core strength. You can make it more advanced by periodically adding the idea of one-legged planks as you perform the move. Say, for example, every fifth step, you could add planks for time in order to test your core a little more rigorously. With regards to being on your back and developing the core strength, which is going to make you successful, I like to use crucifix rolls. In a crucifix roll, I make my body into the shape of a crucifix, just like so. Then from here, we join our feet together and bring our legs up and over the top. We stretch out, we bring our head around the corner and go back in. Done in this way, you develop the front element of the core, which makes for a challenging workout if done for long periods of time. Try to maintain your shoulders on the bed. Try to maintain the form I just demonstrated. These are not crushingly difficult moves, but they're a great way for you to develop the kind of core strength which will enable you to maintain elbow and knee integrity for long periods of time when you're working with a resisting opponent.
you.